Okay, so I just want to greet you all, and I'm really happy to see that the AI topic has filled in one more room. I see some familiar faces that we meet frequently, especially for the occasion of the new technology and discussions about that one. My name is Milan Gospić, and I'm a country manager of Microsoft in Serbia, and next to me, Mr. Dejan Cvetković, the CTO of Microsoft Development Center in Serbia. So what we're going to speak today about is actually the idea of like how can we demystify the whole AI story for you in form of fireside chat, meaning that we want this to be to a certain extent a casual conversation. We of course have a certain script that we will try to follow, but we want you to get on board for this conversation that we have, meaning that whatever we speak about, you are more than welcome to jump in, ask a question or add a comment. Because we are right now in a phase of a technology that requires everyone to give its contribution in both adopting to challenges that we have ahead and also embracing the opportunities that we have ahead. We will take you through this digital journey using Microsoft experience. We are both from Microsoft. We will, of course, try to maximum that this is not any kind of related to Microsoft marketing. So that's why I'm calling it Microsoft experience. So from one big global tech company, how do we see what's going on the market, especially then reflecting to an industries and the trends that we see. And I would start by saying that 2023 is definitely a year of AI. And artificial intelligence has taken the world by a storm because it becomes simply popular. We see that AI services, different kind of services are achieving enormous numbers of users. Mentioning here, of course, the famous chat GPT that got 100 million in just 2 months and about billion clicks, billion interactions per month. So this hype is surrounding us all, and it sparks also the media interest, the coverage, the many questions I'm getting from friends, from family, relatives, kids, of course, but also colleagues and the people who has never experienced the touch with the digital world, but actually are in some other type of an industries where maybe they are not so close to what's going on. And those questions range from completely enthusiastic to completely catastrophic type of questions. So the Terminator movies and everything else. So what is an AI? What is available today? What innovations and impact can we expect to see in our following months, years? What the ethical implications are? Which technology will help or hurt my business? And we're going to look at that through the industries. Is my job at risk, which we heard? So all of these are the questions that we will try to tackle in this conversation today. So let's start from a start. So Dan, maybe having in mind your 30 years at Microsoft and your position in the IT industry for so many years, maybe you can just take us quickly through the tour of what's going on in the IT and how we reach this hype.
Milan, thanks a lot. So, yeah, I've been lucky to be in this industry for 32 years, and out of 32 years, 30 years in Microsoft. So what I wanted to do today is, in the process of demystifying AI, to do a brief overview of the history of the information technology. Before my birth and before your birth, what became really popular is the first instances of mainframe computers back in the 50s. And this is what we see here when IBM introduced them. It became apparent that there is a new power called computing power that the users, primarily business users around the world, will use. And if you remember the pictures of that time, there was a group of system programmers in the white coats and white mantles that were designated to the operations and the execution of the programs on those computers. But again, that was how the computing power was introduced at that time. And we call it the Roman Empire. What happened after that is my generation of PC users, or my generation of barbarians that took the computing power as a storm and make sure that the computer situates on every desk, on every desktop. So the moment in that time was that the computing power became available to ordinary users. The next step is, or the next tectonic shift that I call it in information technology, is the appearance of the internet. This is when I joined Microsoft in 1993, and this is when the World Wide Web was introduced in 1993, so exactly 30 years ago. What became apparent at that time is the global connectivity. Internet came to all of us, and internet ensured the connectivity between all of us and everybody. The next step was the creation of iPhone. iPhone achieved one goal, and that is putting the internet in all of our pockets. And that was so huge. And no matter, after iPhone, there was Android phones and the whole range of the smartphones, but iPhone was the first one that put internet in our pocket. What happened after that is when application developers started creating the applications, somebody or something had to process those applications and to process that data that was generated by the applications. So this is how cloud computing was created, because the cloud, when it was introduced some 11, 12 years ago in the commercial way, was the first piece of technology that had two important things: infinite processing power and infinite memory. There was literally no limit in the processing power that was required to do anything with data, and there was literally no memory limit, so you could do whatever you want to do. I remember 12 years ago when I was preaching cloud, I was always saying that the most important information technology occupation is going to be application developers. And you know what happened today and where we are today with application developers. So application developers started creating the applications both for the front end, which is iPhone, Android, PCs, so the smart clients, and applications for data processing at the back end. And that led to an enormous amount of data that was created. And at a certain point, we started calling that data big data. And big data, and we're talking about petabytes of data, big data is so important because no matter how unimportant those 99% of the data is, that one single percentage that is important is always huge enough to move the data to the information, move the information to the knowledge, and move knowledge to the wisdom. So what we decided to do is to use all of that data to teach the computers. Use the big data for the machine learning. Machine learning as the first step of the artificial intelligence. What is important to understand, though, is that artificial intelligence applications were still being coded in the programming language, no matter what the programming language is. The breakthrough, the technological breakthrough, was the ChatGPT that was introduced many months ago, but in a commercial way back in November. And I always like to say, artificial intelligence is technology evolution that brought to us business revolution. So hopefully you understand the path, how we came up with the artificial intelligence. But why is GPT so important? ChatGPT is so important because it introduced the new programming language. And what is the new programming language? And what is going to become, like tomorrow, the most important programming language?
We're going to ask the audience this.
Can the audience answer that question? Yeah.
Okay, very close. Warm.
Close.
Warm.
What's the most programming language of tomorrow? So the most important programming language, starting like today, is English. English enables AI for everybody, not the techie people, just for everybody. And that's where we are today. And that's the technological breakthrough that we started to experience in November and are going to experience over the months to come. Milan.
Let me add to this one that actually we are now in a phase of learning how in a new way to communicate with the machines. And they are communicating back to us. So the fact that we can do that in our natural language, English is not maybe the natural language for all of us, but this is the most common way that we today can interact with the machine. Like, is it really applied everywhere? It is still not, but it's going to be applied very soon. But I will use this opportunity right now to say that around the whole story, OpenAI is just one thing that has been released publicly so that everyone can use it, and that has got this type of fame, I would say, thanks to the fact that anyone today can communicate with a machine. Until yesterday, if you really want this machine to do something for you, you would be communicating that through a programming language, preparing and everything else. Today, anyone can have a meaningful interaction with a machine. And that's why it is so popular. But this is just one part of the AI. So here I would jump in with a story like how to demystify this AI a bit, and all those questions that we are getting, like what the future will be. Is it going to present a threat to humanity? Are we going to lose our jobs? How it's going to be, and so on and so on. So right now, I would say we are at the early stage of an AI, even though when I was just preparing for this a chat, I was looking, for example, at the music. Because today you have a lot of softwares that can help you create the music. You probably all try to create a picture or something like that using DALL-E or any other type of a program, but also try to create the music. Even if you have no clue about the music, you can create the music. And I found that the first interaction with human, with the machine, to create the music was in 1957. In 1957, so long time ago, we were trying already then to use computers to create a music. And I found it's called String Quartet number 4 from 1957. So ChatGPT and all of the machines we are talking about right now, the ones that we are using for communication and creativity, are not here from yesterday. It is not some kind of an exploding, uncontrollable type of development in an IT. It is actually a long process that we heard how it was moving as the humanity, but also the way that we are building up the IT systems have been growing. And I like to say that there are two different flavors of an artificial intelligence for me. The first one is the AI that actually is much more closer to these science fiction stories. You know, computational systems that can execute virtually any task. So anything you think about, the things that you have seen in the movies and so on and so on. It's a, let me say, some kind of some conscious type of machine that causes a lot of fear. And we call it artificial intelligence, general artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence to be precise. The second flavor of AI, which is much more limited in scope, is the type of AI which is behind most of the current innovation. And this is so-called narrow artificial intelligence. So what is the difference? The first one, hypothetically, can resolve anything. The second one that we are using now for all what we are doing is actually artificial intelligence that is prepared for a certain task. So these softwares are executing a certain task. Is it a conversation that you have, like the ones that are most popular right now, this a natural language and large language models type? GPT is just one of the versions of that one. Or any other kind of artificial intelligence that is basically built upon the machine learning systems, which I'm not going to elaborate too much technically right now, but it is a systems where you do not program exactly any longer what the machine should do in every step, but the models that are giving you the opportunity that if you load the data, they will be trained on that data and they can execute the task that they are meant to be. So I can say that for everyone that is like thinking about the catastrophes and machines taking over the world, I mean, don't pack your bags still. I mean, we are really far away from that one. We even think that there is absolutely no computational power in the world. So there is not enough, even Dejan was saying, with the emerge of cloud, you get unlimited resources. Yes, but even those unlimited resources are still not enough for this artificial general intelligence that, you know, could be basically having some kind of a conscience. So where we are right now is in an era where we have made so good models that 100 million people try that model in 2 months. And some are happy, some are medium happy, some are completely unhappy. That's of course, but personally, I'm using it and I like it. It's very interesting how you can communicate. Even the version that you can have, for example, free, where you can communicate and get quite a lot of information. Then you have, of course, the advanced versions. Some of them are paid, and some of them are actually part of the enterprise-grade solutions, which is in this case Microsoft AI Portfolio, which offers actually to the enterprises the possibility to use an AI in a completely different way. So do not please mix up the interface that you have on the web, an open AI chat GPT, with an enterprise-grade AI that we offer to big companies, and that is part of our portfolio. Now, saying all of this and enabling all of this communication, it is clear to what Dejan was saying, that from technology evolution, we are moving into a business revolution. I hope I said right what you mentioned. So business revolution. Why business revolution? Because it is enabling you to do much more complex tasks with the machine than you could do before. You needed a big IT department, you needed people to prepare this and open things and so on. So now you have some simpler methods how to communicate with the machines. And we will see more and more innovations coming out based on that one. We will all have personal digital assistants that can help you creating music, making a good painting, write whatever text you want. And in Microsoft, we call it copilots. So tell us a bit about the copilots and this completely new era that is in front of us.
Yeah, Milan, we are certainly entering the era of copilots. In a company, we just introduced the copilot for all of the Office products, but also the Copilot for software development that is attached to GitHub. What's the Copilot? Copilot is exactly what the word says. It's the expert in the certain domain that actually built on the expertise that I have as an expert of that domain and execute certain tasks in a very efficient way so I can be more productive. But at the end of the day, I wanted to spend some time to really focus on the usage of the copilots in the industries. And the 6 industries that I wanted to mention is, the first one is obviously manufacturing. Manufacturing, it's becoming more complex, right? And the key thing in manufacturing is the supply chain, management of the supply chain. My AI copilot will be there to help me manage that supply chain, identify the bottlenecks, based on the historical data, based on the programming that I will do in the English language, and probably not only English language, at a certain point it will be my mother tongue as well. But that's an example where in manufacturing, Copilot AI will be very significant to cut the cost of the overall production. The second industry that is very important to mention is retail. If we talk to retails, and many of you are here present, in the retail, no matter if we are talking about online or in-shop retail, you know that the inventory optimization is the key thing for me being productive and attracting new customers. So inventory optimization uses, the Copilot will use the historical data from the store or from the online store and make predictions and suggestions where I can improve in order to make sure that my inventory is always up to date. The third industry is obviously healthcare. Healthcare Copilot in the AI space will immediately ensure the creation of the personalized healthcare. So, very soon, each one of us will have a device that will measure all of the key health indicators for each and every one of us, compare it to the historical data. And if I need any medication, I won't be going to the pharmacy to get that and that medication. It will be that and that medication for Dejan Cvetković or Milan, Gospić or whatever. Any suggestion, any medication will be dedicated to a person. And that's what Copilot in the healthcare artificial intelligence is going to enable. Government, very huge industry. Everything will be chatbots in the government, and that's being built today. Many governments are implementing. My government Copilot will enable me to do basically everything online, speaking to the government through the machine in the natural language. The next industry, I spoke about healthcare. The next industry that I want to mention is actually financial services. In financial services, or specifically in banking, the banks will know what I want, what are my career goals, what are my life goals, what are my professional goals in the future, what's the history, my credit history and everything, compile all of that and suggest the products for me and how I will lead in the future from the finance angle in order to achieve all of those goals. And the last industry that I want to mention is education. And that's very important because it will be personalized education for all of us in the future with the education Copilot. The Copilot will listen to me and know as a kid what I'm interested in, what I want to learn, get an input from my parents as well, and create a specific targeted curriculum only for me and not for you. So one thing is for sure, we will still preach to our kids that they need to complete the university, get a degree and so on. But we are now past the time when you finish the university, you get a job, and you're secured until your retirement. Lifelong learning with the artificial intelligence will become a must. And this is what we, as a society, need to ensure, that the lifelong learning becomes a new norm in the education. Every 1, 2, 3 years, I will have to re-educate myself in order to cope up with what the artificial intelligence and related co-pilots are going to enable for me in the future.
Before you go to this one, let me bridge this one quickly. So you've heard about just some examples. I actually open up here the huge list of companies, examples for those companies, for both manufacturing, retail, for finance, and so on, so on. But actually, we were thinking before we get to this stage, like we would need one conference to talk about all of this stuff, not like 30 minutes that we have today. So what we would really like to call for an action and actually get your interest to start clicking around and actually exploring this one. So go to Microsoft blogs and you will find a lot of examples of how the companies are using the technology and in which way. And to bridge to something that's going to be super important, and we are left with a few minutes only, I will just tell you a few interesting information reading from actually Stanford University AI Index report for 2023, which actually more is like 2022 review, so not all of these happenings in the last 3 months, so you see how fast we are. But just a few headlines. Industry races ahead of academia. We used to have academia producing the stuff moving forward. Today is the industry producing the stuff moving forward. So in 2022, 32 significant industry-produced machine learning models compared to just 3 produced by academia. So we see that the complete shift also in a society is happening, where research is happening in the industry. Then, the world's best new scientist, is it an AI? It says that AI models are starting to rapidly accelerate scientific progress in 2022, so helping everyone. The number of incidents concerning the misuse of AI, of which we're going to talk next 2 minutes, is rapidly rising. The demand for AI-related professional skills across all industries is rising. Another topic we want to touch. Policy interest on AI is rising. So on, so on. So let's really use these last minutes that we have on disposal to say about 3 important things. Ethics, jobs, and
you can't remember the third one.
And I can't remember the third one.
Look, when it comes to ethics, what I want to say is the current leaders in the development of the AI are Google and Microsoft, and that's the current leaders. And there's concerns, obviously, now about the misuse of AI and so on. And the concerns are valid.
Cybersecurity.
Okay, but I want to make sure that each and every one of us here understands that there is a strong department and a strong group in both companies that are working on responsible AI and the set of regulations that need to be adopted and ratified, if you will, by the public sector institutions all over the world in order to ensure that AI is traceable, reliable, sustainable, and so on. So there's a group of people in those companies that are focused on that. The second one about the jobs, and Ivanka spoke about that in the previous presentation as well. What you see here is the Flatiron in New York, in the middle of 19th century, where people were using horses, and just 50 years after that, when people were using cars. I just want to say the following. Just read in the internet how many jobs were lost in the horse industry when cars were introduced, how many thousands of jobs were lost, really thousands of jobs, and how many millions of jobs were created when actually the cars were introduced. So yeah, will people lose jobs due to AI? True, they will. 10 times more, 20 times more, 30 times more jobs will be created with the introduction of AI. And that's inevitable. AI and everything being online introduces the threats. We all know what cybercrime is, what the cyber threats are. Just like I was preaching 12 years ago that the application developer is the job of the future, it still is. But the cybersecurity expert is the job of the future today as well. And I want you to preach that to your colleagues, to your friends, to your family, co-workers, and everybody. I don't want you, we don't want you to sit back and relax. We want you to understand the power of AI, really embrace it with all of us. Work with both public and private sector to embrace it, because we all see the power and the outcomes of it over the last couple of years, especially the last couple of months. And I'm sure that this very conference will look very different due to the implementation of AI in a year from now. Milan?
Looking forward to talk about this one in a year from now, and make sure you engage, learn, and get as much as possible relevant information on the topic, because this is a topic of the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You can stay there for a bit. Is there any question? Yes, of course.
I think we have a couple of minutes just for one. So thanks for the presentation. I've seen recently an interview of Microsoft CEO who talked about the Copilot in a very kind of practical, this is what's going to happen like already now in the kind of business and office space. So you talk about different industries, but I was impressed that, you know, he said we're going to embed AI and OpenAI ChatGPT features and further AI solutions into Microsoft Office products. So within Excel, you'll be able to kind of, you know, use the features of, you know, including all the other kind of Office, you know, maybe even Word, etc. He was talking about things like he'll be able to ask Office or this module in Office to do a predictive model to say how much revenue I'm going to get from this kind of segment. And these are all really impressive. You know, I'm a bit of an AI skeptic, but I love how AI could be implemented in everyday work and people in, you know, working in office environments instead of talking about replacing them. When do you think these kind of features will be available, like for us in this region in Microsoft products? Is it like this year? I know all of it is states, you know, US based. When do you expect these to be things kind of practically available in kind of our region in our everyday applications in Office? If you have some.
I start, you take over, Deki.
Okay.
So first of all, you already have a bunch of features in Office products, if we talk about this specific group and family, that are helping you every day and that you are, to a certain extent, even not aware. Starting from a design, spell checking, and different other kind of things, to a fact that I don't know how many of you have tried the accessibility mods in our products, meaning that the PowerPoint will tell you if that product is, if your presentation is adjusted for a person with a problem with a hearing or speaking or seeing and things like that. Now, all of these software products will have a Copilot that will help you on this one. We already now have launched for a preview around the world for last 3 months, different line of products to basically gather as much as possible information. One part of the story is written in the development center in Belgrade when it comes to an Office and the AI. So I would expect in next 3 to 6 months to have it in the products, the latest updates on all the markets. Depends also on, you know, how the things will start moving on. But this is what I expect.
Milan, I'm impressed. Like, people in this room are going to hold you accountable for the wise prediction that you had just made. true. I'm just kidding. Over the next actually 6 to 12 months, throughout the course of our next fiscal year, if you are a subscriber of this Office 365, you are going through your evergreen contract. You will be fed with these new features, right? Milan and I made this presentation last night after drinks and dinner. So we used ChatGPT and
Yes.
PowerPoint. We basically gave the directions, what we want to talk about, and you know, this is the reason actually, you know, why there's a title by your name here. There's no title by my name, because some of the photos that I downloaded yesterday, I didn't ask for the copyrights. But again, Milan, it's you.
Colorful.
You are Microsoft. Anyway, yeah, over the course of next fiscal year, you will see those features being implemented. The video on the Satya's video and the video on Copilot that you had a chance to see is just a video. But Copilot for Word and for Excel are actually built in our development center in Belgrade, right? So, are we?
We stop
Yes, one more question. That's fine. I actually used that chat and I was really impressed and a bit scared, I must admit.
I'm a user of Microsoft, but I cannot speak English with Microsoft anymore. Nobody human picks up the phone. So when will this come back, that you educate us in person?
On that one, it's simple to answer. We don't want this to get back into person. We want to be driving the changes. We are driving it all over the world. So hopefully our machines will become better than they are right now. So this is what we hope. But this is what we really want to strive. And that's user experience. Your feedback is what matters. So explore and push it further, because all of these stories about how we're going to regulate it, what we're going to do, and so on, this cannot come without actually having this trend out in the open and all of you contributing to really get it on the right track and get the right information out. As you were saying about just on help center call. I know what you talk about. Okay?
Thank you very much. We have to continue, but I hope that you will have your time to ask your question. I'm sure.